Hello, my name is Big Bubble. I sometimes go by the name of Simon, and this is a special. Now, on this channel, I normally talk about my thoughts on board games and just generally talk about board games in general if I want to just talk about board games. But most of you also know that I really do like Star Wars, and well, Star Wars is kind of going through a bit of a stage right now. It's The Last Jedi was particularly iffy, and Solo did not do well at all, and fans are kind of mad. And this has become a really not nice scene, which kind of sucks for me because I just want to like Star Wars. I love Star Wars. I'm a big fan of it. And I thought I would just talk about one of the things I really liked, and that is Star Wars Imperial Assault. It's a board game by Fantasy Flight Games. It's somewhat of a dungeon crawler in which people take a bunch of rebel heroes through various missions trying to, well, save a princess or destroy a building. It's quite varied and quite thematically appropriate to Star Wars itself. But it kind of rings home just one of the things I think Star Wars, or at least Disney and LucasArts, are struggling with, and that is finding good characters. Now, I'm not going to give my personal feelings that much about the latest Star Wars, but I just feel like the characters aren't that interesting. One of the biggest problems was that Solo had what, five, six, like all main characters were all just human, except for that annoying robot who I hated. Then you have Rogue One, which again you have what, a team of five, six humans. And then you have The Last Jedi, which is just humans. The Force Awakens, just humans, it feels like. Yeah, there's a couple of side characters, and especially in the new movies, there are the rebel pilots. I think Nib Nib plays a part in it, and one other character. And that's great, but I also feel like characters like Admiral Akbar are just underutilized, and that's a crying shame. Really, I think what Disney and LucasArts are struggling with is just not having enough interesting characters who feel like they're not from here. They're not from Earth, but they actually are in a galaxy far, far away and a long time ago. And I think that's what Disney is kind of not nailing in the correct thing. Especially, this is kind of highlighted in the fact that they don't really understand that, yeah, it's a galaxy far, far away, but certain things are still common. One of the things I don't like is how just aliens in general are kind of just used and thrown away. What I mean by that is if you look at like the Mos Eisley scene, Mos Eisley Cantina scene, or if you look at Maz's castle or stronghold, or the Canto Bight scenes, these are generally where they showcase the aliens, the many, many people or the many, many races of the galaxy. But it always sucks because they never repeat the same characters. They never repeat the same alien races. One of the good things about the prequels was, hey, these are alien races that you knew from the Mos Eisley Cantina scene. Let's use them again. Let's put in Twi'leks from Jabba's palace. Let's put in Gamorreans, those pig guys from Jabba's palace. Why can't we have that? It seems like Star Wars tends to blow all of their budget on these alien scenes, but it's just to showcase cool wardrobe and makeup when these could actually be really cool characters to get to know and love. Yes, I know the fact that it might be a bit weird seeing a Twi'lek and maybe a person's with tons of makeup, but honestly, it's not worth the try. This is the reason why I like Star Wars Imperial Assault, because the characters feel a bit different. And that's what I actually just want to talk about in this two-part series, is these characters. I just want to talk about why I like them and maybe encourage you to actually play the game, because I do think it's a really good game. So, all that being started, let's get started. The core set comes with 6 characters, and this is probably my personal favorite. It is a Jedi. Well, not really a Jedi. This is an exile. And immediately that tells you a story itself. So what's great is there's no backstory to any of these characters. Essentially, they just have a name, and then they have kind of like a class, I guess you could call it. So in this case, Diala Pashil is a haunted exile. Okay, she's a purple Twi'lek. That's pretty cool already. You can kind of relate to that. And then she starts off with a staff. She doesn't have a lightsaber, and yet she's shown having a lightsaber in this picture. You kind of go on a quest later on to kind of recover her master's lightsaber. But this is an interesting character because we know there's other Jedi that survived the Clone Wars, right? There was no reason to have Force smugglers in Solo. Why not have a Jedi with them? Why not have not someone who's particularly a good Jedi, not someone who's a terrible Jedi either, but someone who's learned a few things about the Force? Maybe they're just doing that to get by. in the world that doesn't like them anymore. When I say don't like them, I mean they're actively being hunted down. That's quite a cool opportunity, don't you think? And I like this character because it's somewhat different. The prequels had the wonderful Jedi Council. We had all these weird alien races like Ki-Mundi, or the Calderai guy with the face mask. Why couldn't you have Diala Bashir as well? That's what the new series is kind of missing. A bit of alienness to it. And then, of course, you have the regular people. The guy who's seen it all, Gideon August. This is a commander. This is probably someone who I expected was probably in the Hoth base at the time, and he was busy coordinating efforts. Yeah, again, I know the movie should focus on a small band of heroes. But why not have this guy? Why not have the guy that has the experience? And we know he has the experience just because he's old. And you respect him for that. He's probably going to tell you some really cool war stories. He's probably going to tell you about some really cool experience he's had. Maybe have that. Again, one of the reasons why I don't like Rogue One is the characters just feel a bit superficial. Why not, instead of have Saul Guerrera, who didn't seem to really work, have this guy who's seen everything and knows the impact that this weapon might have, the Death Star might have. And then, of course, we have the Wookiee. Wookiees are great. I love Wookiees. Chewbacca's fantastic, but I often feel like he's underutilized a bit. You know, we kind of get this story that creates around him that he's a violent. You know, Wookiees can be violent in times and can tear your arms off. But we also never really see that. The best thing we see is Wookiee Chewbacca mostly being a pacifist. Yes, in The Force Awakens, he occasionally breaks out his bowcaster and shoots a couple of fools. But he never seems to be that actively engaged in combat to a point where it's focused upon him. And, you know, you have Han Solo say that Wookiees will tear out your arms. This is, of course, been rectified in Solo. And it's nice to see. But I really wish we could see a bit more of, like, that ferocious Wookiee violence that is expected of them. And Garkon is that. You know, I love the tribal shoulder pads this guy kind of gives off. I like the fact that this guy will charge headfirst into a bunch of stormtroopers. I want to see that in a movie. You know, don't give me some character who's basically just a big brute. Give me a Wookiee who's a big brute instead. And then, of course, you have the Han Solo-ish character. I mean, Jyn Ordan. Apparently, Jyn is the equivalent of, like, Jessica in this world, where it's just a very common name. She's not related to Jyn Erso in any way. And she's probably the Han Solo. But I still like the fact that she is a bit different. She looks a bit different. She's probably a more interesting character than, say, Jyn Erso is. Simply because she looks like she's a smuggler, but she's not the same as Han Solo. Yeah, she has a smuggler's smoke, but who doesn't when they're a smuggler? She more looks like she's a cowgirl. You know, the person that's just going to do amazing in fights, and she's just going to be a gunslinger and pop fools. That's quite cool. I like that. I like the fact that she's elusive and kind of sneaks around. You know, she looks like she can handle herself in a fight, but also is quite a cool operator. And then you have a Bothan. You have Mark Ishkarai, who's a sniper, and who's a Bothan. And why didn't we have that? Again, I know it might be a bit jarring to see the CGI characters, but we've seen it done in other films. We've seen it done in all the Marvel franchises. I mean, we have Rocket Raccoon from Guardians of the Galaxy. So why can't we have a cool Bothan? You know, they get talked about how they stole the Death Star plans, and they apparently are world-class spies. But let us talk to one. Let us see one in the flesh. Again, I think Mark Ezra is just a cool character because he's a Bothan sniper. I mean, who doesn't want to play as one of those, right? But it's also different. It doesn't feel like it's part of this world. It feels like it's part of Star Wars. And that's what I like about all these characters. They don't feel like they belong here. They feel like they belong in a galaxy far, far away. And then I immediately go on to defend Cygnus, who's probably the weakest of the characters from the core set. Not in terms of abilities or anything, but just because he's kind of the equivalent of, well, American Marine. You know, if you take away the rebel symbol on his arm, he basically looks like he's just about to come out of the Iraq War. And it's not great, but you don't also get to see that. You don't get to see this a normal rebel soldier in any of these movies. You know, you don't get to see a resistance soldier. Yeah, you see them during the Battle of Hoth, you see them during the Battle of Crate, but you don't get to see them act. You know, you don't get to see them talk. You don't get to hear what they're thinking. You know, even Rogue One tried to make it a war story, but they didn't have the war character. They didn't have the general guy who's a soldier. One of the things that Saving Private Ryan did so well is those were characters who you expected to come out from World War II. And I feel like Rogue One kind of missed a beat there when they didn't have, well, this is a soldier. They kind of had Cassian, but he was more just a spy, assassin, and murderer. Moving on, Twin Sons. Here we have a good example of guerrilla fighter. Rather than Saul's band of rebels who were guerrilla-ish, because they didn't follow the rebels, but you never got that feeling that they were guerrilla fighters. They just felt like they were outlaws who were basically siding with the rebellion. But Bovik here, he looks like he's just in one place underneath a bunker somewhere killing guys with a machine gun. He looks that kind of badass. And I love the way he's framed here, where his outfit tells a story. You have this kind of gauntlet, the stormtrooper gauntlet that's been painted over with the rebel symbol. You have this heavy machine gun that, again, doesn't look like it fully belongs in Star Wars, but you can kind of imagine it being here. You can kind of, again, you imagine him rushing up to a person and just firing a ton of bullets into their chest. But why can't we have that? You can kind of see from this character design that might have been where Blaze actually came from. And then we have Saskia. I love Saskia. She's such a cool character simply because she's cute. And I know that sounds weird, but I like her because she's brilliant. Like, one of the great things that Star Wars Imperial Assault does is they give you a class. And it's 2 words normally. And it fully encapsulates what the character is all about. And I never get the same feeling when I watch the latest Star Wars movies. In the prequels, you had characters who you knew who were Jedis and who you knew were senators and Sith. In the original trilogy, you had the smuggler, the scoundrel, you had the heroic knight, or Luke, the farm boy, you had the wizened old man, Ben Solo, and then you had the Dark Lord. Right, they're all character traits, or like all character arcs, right, that people knew about. And I don't think The Last Jedi is fully trying to experience that. I don't think The Force Awakens is truly trying to paint a character the way they should be. Finn's a clone trooper, or what is he? He's a First Order trooper who rebelled. You have Poe Dameron, who's a pilot, and then you have Rey, who's a scavenger. But you never really feel like they're doing those roles fully. Except for Poe. Poe does a really good job of being just a hotshot pilot. But the other 2 never really feel like they're fully capturing what their roles are supposed to be. Or at least what the roles they were shown to have. What I like about Saskia is she looks already like she's a person that will sit down with any droid and repair it. We have that character of Rose in The Last Jedi. And she's supposed to be, I guess, an engineer, but she never feels like she does anything engineering. She comes up with the idea of the tracker for the hyperspace thing. But it's like, okay, but can she do that? Whereas you look at this picture, and you immediately have an idea that this person's sole job is keeping the rebel stuff operational. She's busy fixing a blast at the moment. She has these goggles, which she probably wears the whole time. She's wearing tons of data pads around her belt. I think this portrays a character who's probably got some good stories to tell you about droids. And I think they probably should have used her instead. And then speaking of droids, we have MHD-19, a medic. We have a great scene in Return, with the Empire Strikes Back, Luke recovering a bacta tank, and you have basically the medical doctor looking over him, and it's a droid, which is quite cool. And I'm just thinking, well, surely that droid might also be fit for combat. Right, this is a great image where you have a droid who's all about keeping his patients alive, and he might go to any extent to do it. And I also like the character model. I like the fact that he's kinda dark. He looks like a robot, but he's not a robot that's going to protect you, and yet there's a complication there because he has this kind of medical layout to him. He's supposed to be a medical droid, and yet he's also a character that looks quite scary. I think one of the things that I love K2SO from Rogue One, but he just felt like he was an Imperial droid. He didn't really have any cool function to him, right? But with this character, you see by that medical syringe that he's a doctor. I think that's great. Again, you really have good ideas from a character simply by looking at them. You know, you have ideas of their story just by looking at the design, which is not something you get out of these latest movies. And of course, you have another of my favorite characters, and that's Brianna Talos. This is a person who looks like she's been through a lot of rebel training. She looks like she's been part of the rebels for a very long time. And she looks like she can handle herself in any situation and is going to listen to her commanding officers. I will say now she also has this really cool ability where she basically stabs a guy with a knife and then grabs the weapon and shoots another person. And that is such a cool moment that you just get by the abilities. But you also look at this person and think, yeah, I'm pretty sure she can handle herself in a fist-to-fist fight. I'm pretty sure she doesn't have to rely on blasters. I'm pretty sure she's willing to do what is necessary to get the job done. And I can kind of see where Cassian was coming from. But this lady looks like she can kick some serious ass. And then, of course, finally we have Luku Kulunula, who's a Mon Calamari. And I always hate the fact that Admiral Akbar was so underused in The Last Jedi when you have this. Right? We always see Mon Calamari in spaceships, but it's not to say that they can't be on the ground. Again, go back and look at an alien scene, a scoundrel scene. Go back and look at the Mos Eisley Cantina. There can be a Mon Calamari there. Go back and look at Mars's Tavern. There can be a Mon Calamari there. There can be a Bothan there. Why don't they do that? Why don't, instead of having a character from Rogue One, or again, Solo, have an alien be part of it? It's this feeling where they're not fully utilizing what they've done before. And I think this is maybe why the fans aren't happy, is that, yeah, they're trying to be a Star Wars movie, but they're missing the mark in some key places and some really obvious places that could make it relatable to a Star Wars movie. Again, go back and look at Star Wars Rebels, which is a children's cartoon show. But they do a really good job of having all these interesting alien races interacting with our protagonists. Even the crew, you have the Twi'lek, and then you have... this is embarrassing that I can't figure that other one out. But I'll leave a description below as to who I'm talking about. But it's great that you have aliens. I think, again, I wish Star Wars, Disney, and Lucasfilms took the opportunity. One of the reasons why I'm actually showing all of these characters is this is Fantasy Flight Games. They're working with Disney and Lucasfilms to make Star Wars Imperial Assault. Use them. Use these people. These are good people. You know, Lucasfilms has so much available to them in terms of people who understand the franchise. There's no reason they can't do that. There's no reason they should be sticking with just people who want to make Star Wars films. Get people who want to make Star Wars. Anyway, I hope you have enjoyed this video. I hope you have enjoyed me giving a showcase of all the characters involved. This is just part 1. There will be a part 2 coming out later this week where I go through the rest of the characters from Star Wars Imperial Assault, and I do recommend picking up the game. It's a fantastic dungeon crawling experience. It's a lot of fun. The story from it is good, and I guarantee you'll fall in love with your character as they level up slowly. It does take a bit of time. Anyway, that's going to be it for me. If you have enjoyed this video, remember to hit the like and subscribe button. If you have not enjoyed the video, then hit the dislike button, but let me know in the comments if you think I did a mistake. If you think this is not suitable for board gaming, let me know. I'd love to hear from you guys as always, and I want to make the channel as best possible in what capacity I have. That's going to be it for me. Thank you so much for watching. Bye-bye.